Every day, a humble roadside food seller handed a warm meal to the same quiet, homeless veteran, never asking for anything in return. She didn't know his name, his story, or the battles he carried inside. But kindness doesn't need explanations. Then, one morning, the ground trembled as four black SUVs rolled up to her tiny stall, and what happened next left her speechless. As we move deeper into this story, if you enjoy moments like these, a simple like and subscribe helps us keep sharing them. The sun had barely risen when Maya rolled up the metal shutter of her tiny roadside food stall, a simple wooden structure standing bravely between a mechanic's garage and a faded barber shop. The world at this hour was quiet, painted in dull shades of blue, and for a moment she loved that silence. It reminded her that even the most chaotic streets began their day in peace. Maya wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, she didn't own much, just her food cart, her spices, her battered cooking pans, and a smile that somehow survived every hardship life threw at her. But what she did have was heart. A heart that never learned how to turn away from someone in need. She tied her apron, lit the stove, and let the familiar scent of sizzling onions drift into the morning air. This scent was her identity. Her announcement to the waking city, "I'm here. Breakfast is ready." As the steam rose and the pan crackled, Maya glanced toward the far corner of the street, an instinct by now. And there he was, just like every morning. A thin, quiet man in worn-out boots, a heavy coat that had lost its warmth years ago, and tired eyes that carried stories he never told. The homeless veteran. Though she didn't know his name, she had memorized everything else. The way he walked slowly as if each step had to be negotiated with pain. The way he always straightened his posture near her stall, as if trying to look respectable despite his circumstances. The way he nodded politely when she handed him a plate of food, never once asking for more than she offered. Every morning, he waited until there were no customers around, almost embarrassed to accept charity. And every morning, Maya pretended she needed help testing the seasoning, or someone with a good appetite to finish the leftovers. Both of them knew it was a gentle lie, but it was a lie that preserved his dignity. Some days, she saw the man flinch at loud car horns. Other days, his hands trembled as he accepted the warm plate. Maya didn't push. She didn't pry. She simply gave him food, warmth, and the kind of quiet respect the world had long forgotten to show him. Around them, the neighborhood buzzed to life. The mechanic revved an engine, school children laughed, buses honked. But in that little pocket of the world, between her stall and his careful footsteps, there was a fragile kind of humanity. A ritual built not on words, but on kindness. What Maya didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that this simple act of compassion was rippling outward, slowly touching a life that had nearly surrendered to its shadows. She had no idea she was feeding more than a hungry stomach. She was feeding hope, and soon that hope would return to her doorstep in a way she never imagined, carried by the engines of four black SUVs. But long before four black SUVs would ever appear on that street, long before Maya would find herself at the center of a story she never asked to be part of, there were the quiet mornings, the ordinary ones, the ones where the world moved slowly enough for kindness to breathe. And on those mornings, the veteran always arrived exactly the same way. He approached with careful footsteps, shoulders slightly hunched as if trying to make himself smaller, like someone who'd learned to survive by blending into the background. Maya didn't greet him loudly or dramatically. She simply let her smile do the work. "There you are," she'd say gently, already sliding a warm plate across the counter. "I kept your breakfast warm." He never grabbed it quickly. He always paused first, meeting her eyes for a fleeting second, as though searching for confirmation. Is this really for me? Am I truly welcome here? Then he would accept the plate with both hands, almost ceremonially. "Thank you. Again," he would murmur. The first time he said it, Maya simply nodded. But over the weeks she began to understand something. This man wasn't just hungry for food. He was hungry for the feeling of being treated like a human being again. And so Maya made it her quiet mission to give him both. She noticed everything. The way he flinched when buses backfired. The way he instinctively scanned the area before sitting, muscle memory from a life where danger was never far, the way he ate with such slow discipline, as if meals used to be rationed and timed. On cold mornings when frost clung to the metal shutters around her stall, Maya intentionally made the broth hotter than usual. On scorching afternoons, she'd press a cold drink into his hands before he had the chance to refuse. "You take care of everyone else," she would say teasingly. "Let someone take care of you for a change." He never argued with her, but his silence carried 1,000 unspoken words: fear, guilt, gratitude, confusion. Maya didn't push him to explain. She sensed that whatever story lived in his past was heavy, and forcing it out would only make him retreat deeper. Some regular customers noticed the pattern. A few admired her, some judged her, others whispered about him. But Maya never cared about the opinions floating around her stall. The only thing she cared about was the man in front of her, the one who never asked for help but clearly needed it. And something was changing in him. Slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly, the emptiness in his eyes began to soften. He started standing a little taller. He lingered a little longer before leaving. And some mornings, he looked like he wanted to say something, but the words got stuck somewhere between fear and hope. Maya sensed it. Something was building, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that shouted danger or excitement, but in a way that felt like the quiet before a turning point. A change was coming, and it was approaching faster than either of them realized. The shift in the veteran's behavior wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost easy to miss, like the way seasons change 1 degree at a time. But Maya was the type of person who paid attention to little things. She had to be. Life had trained her that way. So she noticed. She noticed the way he sometimes stared into the distance with a haunted expression, as if replaying memories only he could see. She noticed how his hands, steady one moment, trembled the next. How loud noises made him stiffen instinctively, shoulders tightening as if expecting danger to strike. One morning, as he took the bowl of soup she offered, Maya saw the faintest wince cross his face. It wasn't physical pain, it was emotional, something deeper, older, carved into him over years. "You okay today?" she asked softly, stirring the pot as if the question were casual. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I'm trying," he said finally, the words rough from disuse. It wasn't much, but for him, it was a confession, and it told Maya more than anything else had. Some days he arrived looking cleaner, as if he'd made an effort. Other days he seemed weighed down by exhaustion so heavy it looked like it might crush him. She saw him sitting on the curb once, gripping his head, breathing slowly, like a man wrestling with something inside himself. A storm no one else could see. War leaves its marks long after the battlefield disappears. Maya knew nothing of his past, but she could feel it, the invisible scars, the burden of memories that refused to fade. There were moments when she would catch him whispering under his breath, as if speaking to people who were no longer alive. Moments where his gaze drifted not to the world around him, but to a place locked far behind his eyes. Yet despite all that, he kept coming back. Every day. To her stall. To the warmth of a meal made with genuine care. It was like her presence anchored him in a way nothing else did. One afternoon, after a particularly quiet meal, he lingered. Maya was wiping down the counter, humming softly, when he suddenly spoke. "You saved me," he said. Maya froze. The cloth slipped from her hand. "What?" She laughed nervously, thinking he was making a joke. But he wasn't. "You don't know what it means," he continued quietly, staring at his hands. "When you've lost everything, even yourself, one small kindness can feel like the only thing keeping you from disappearing completely." Maya felt her chest tighten. She wanted to say something comforting, something wise. But all she could manage was placing a gentle hand on his arm. "You're not disappearing," she whispered. "Not while I'm around." He nodded, absorbing her words like someone starved for reassurance. But behind his gratitude, something else flickered. Nervousness, anticipation, fear, and hope woven together, as if he was waiting for something inevitable to arrive. And soon, it would. The changes didn't happen overnight. They came slowly, like a quiet drumbeat in the background of their mornings, too soft to notice at first, but impossible to ignore once the rhythm settled in. Maya noticed it the moment he began arriving earlier than usual. He used to show up after the first wave of customers, keeping to the shadows so he wouldn't be seen. But now, he sometimes arrived before Maya had even lit her stove, standing a polite distance away, waiting, not for food, but for her. "Morning," he'd say, his voice steadier than before. "Morning," Maya would smile back. "You're early today." He would give a tiny shrug, the kind that tried to hide the truth. But Maya saw it anyway. He was preparing himself for something big, something he hadn't told her, and with each passing day the signs grew stronger. One morning, he came wearing a freshly cleaned shirt, still old but washed with care. His boots were shined, his face, usually hidden beneath days of stubble, was clean-shaven. Maya raised an eyebrow as she handed him his meal. "Well, look at you. Big day." The veteran looked down at his hands, suddenly shy. "Maybe," he murmured, but his eyes weren't on the food. They kept drifting to the street, scanning the area as if expecting someone, or several someones, to appear. The next morning, he apologized for being distracted. "I didn't mean to worry you," he said. "You didn't," Maya replied, but she knew it wasn't entirely true. Something in his demeanor had shifted. He wasn't just nervous, he was bracing himself, like he was standing at the edge of a moment that could either save him or destroy him. The world around them continued as usual. Customers came and went, buses rattled by, laughter rose from schoolchildren passing down the street. But amidst all that noise, the veteran seemed trapped inside a countdown only he could hear. One evening, just after Maya had closed her stall, he lingered again. The streetlights flickered above them, casting long shadows on the pavement. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Of course." His voice trembled, just barely. If something happens, if people come looking for me, don't be afraid." Maya's heart dropped. "What do you mean? Who would come looking for you?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His jaw tightened with the effort of holding back words he wasn't ready to share. Instead, he simply said, "Just know, you have been the one steady thing in my life, and I'll never forget it." Maya's chest tightened with worry. "Are you in trouble?" "No," he answered softly. I think I'm finally coming out of it." Coming out of what? He didn't say. But for the first time, Maya saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Hope, fear, and a strange, quiet acceptance. Like a man preparing to meet a part of himself he'd long been running from. Something was coming. And it was closer than she realized. The morning it happened felt no different from any other, at least at first. The sun hung low behind a thin layer of clouds. The air carried the usual scent of dust and street food, and Maya was humming softly as she chopped vegetables, the same way she did every day. But the veteran wasn't there. Not early, not on time, not even a shadow at the end of the street. Maya tried to ignore the uneasy knot forming in her stomach. Maybe he overslept. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. Maybe he'd simply taken a different route that morning. She clung to these harmless explanations because the alternative, the fear he hinted at, felt too heavy to unpack so early in the day. And then the street changed. It wasn't the sound she heard first, it was the stillness. Conversations died out mid-sentence. A few heads turned. The mechanic stepped out of his shop, wiping his hands on a rag, eyebrows raised. Even the school children slowed down. The quiet was sudden, unnatural. Then Maya heard it. The low, smooth hum of engines approaching. Powerful engines, the kind you don't hear in everyday traffic. She looked up in time to see the first black SUV turn the corner, the tinted windows shining like obsidian in the morning light. Then came the second, the third, the fourth. All identical, all intimidating, all heading straight toward her tiny stall. Her breath caught. She wasn't used to anything more expensive than second-hand scooters passing her way, let alone vehicles that looked like they belonged in a government convoy. The SUVs slowed to a synchronized stop right in front of her stall, their engines idling like waiting beasts. Doors opened almost in perfect unison. Men stepped out, not thugs, not gang members, but well-dressed individuals in crisp suits and polished shoes, some wearing earpieces, others carrying folders. One wore the sharp uniform of a high-ranking official. The crowd around her pulled back instinctively, creating distance as if danger radiated from the vehicles. Maya stayed still. Her hands tightened around the ladle she was holding. Fear prickled at her spine. Her mind raced. Was this about the veteran? Had something happened? Was he in trouble? Were they trouble? One of the suited men approached her with surprising gentleness, stopping a respectful distance from the counter. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but authoritative, "we're trying to locate the woman who has been providing daily meals to a Mr. Daniel Harris." Daniel Harris. The name hit her like a jolt. She'd never known it. He had been sir, friend, or simply the quiet man who always thanked her. I've been helping him," Maya replied slowly. "Is he okay?" The man exchanged a brief glance with his colleagues, then turned back to her. "Ma'am," he said with a tone that blended respect and urgency, "Mr. Harris is not just any man. He's a decorated veteran who went missing years ago. His family and several agencies have been searching for him ever since." Maya felt the world tilt. Missing? Searched for? Decorated? Before she could process the shock, she saw movement behind the SUVs, and then she saw him, the veteran, walking toward her, but not alone. He stepped forward slowly, almost shyly, as if unsure whether he deserved this moment. But it wasn't just him. Behind him walked two men in military uniforms and a woman whose eyes were already brimming with tears. They moved cautiously, as though afraid that one wrong step might scare him back into the shadows he'd lived in for so long. Maya's heart pounded. The veteran, Daniel Harris, looked different, not just because he'd cleaned up, not just because he was surrounded by officials, but because there was a clarity in his eyes she hadn't seen before, as if he had finally stopped running. "Maya," he said softly, his voice steadier than she'd ever heard it. She stepped out from behind the counter, her hands half raised in disbelief. "Daniel, what's happening?" Before he could answer, the woman behind him rushed forward. "Dad!" she cried. Maya froze as the woman wrapped her arms tightly around the veteran. He stiffened at first, rigid, overwhelmed. Then slowly, painfully slowly, his arms lifted to embrace her back. Tears slid down his face, not from pain, from recognition, from coming home. The uniformed officer stepped forward and addressed Maya with a respectful nod. "Ma'am, Mr. Harris served in the Special Forces. He was part of a classified unit. He went missing after a traumatic operation overseas. For years we had no trace of him, no movements, no financial activity, nothing." The officer paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "We feared the worst." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "But he was right here, all this time." Daniel gently pulled away from his daughter, wiping his tears with the back of his trembling hand. "I didn't want to be found," he admitted, voice low. "After the war, I wasn't the same. I felt like a ghost, like I didn't deserve to go back." He looked at Maya. "But you kept me alive." She shook her head. "Daniel, I only gave you food." "No," he whispered, stepping closer. "You gave me something much bigger. You treated me like a person. You didn't look at me with pity. You never asked questions. You never demanded anything. You just cared." The officer nodded. "He reached out to us a week ago. It was the first contact he'd made in years. He told us a woman helped him find the courage to reconnect with the world, to come home." Maya felt her eyes sting with tears. He'd been preparing for this moment. Every clean shirt, every early arrival, every nervous glance down the street. He hadn't been waiting for danger. He had been waiting for them, his family, his past, his identity. Daniel's daughter approached Maya with a heartfelt smile. "My father said we needed to find you," she said. "He said you saved him when he couldn't save himself." Maya could only whisper, "I just did what anyone should." Daniel shook his head gently. "No," he said, "not everyone would." And for the first time, Maya realized the truth. Her small act of kindness had helped return a missing soldier to his family. The street felt different now, almost sacred, like everyone understood they were witnessing a moment that didn't happen in ordinary lives. Even the usual morning chaos had fallen silent. Cars slowed as they passed. The mechanic stood frozen with a wrench in his hand. People who moments ago were hurrying to work now watched with tear-glossed eyes. Daniel stood at the center of it all, surrounded by officers, his daughter, and Maya. Three pieces of his life that had never meant to collide, yet somehow fit together perfectly. He looked at Maya with a gentleness she had never seen in him before. "I didn't recognize myself anymore," he said quietly. "Every night I'd sleep on a different street, hoping one day I wouldn't wake up. I thought the world was better off without me." Maya swallowed hard. "Daniel, you don't have to explain." But he shook his head. "I do, because you changed that. You gave me something I didn't think I still deserved." She frowned softly. "What did I give you?" He gave her a small, heartbreaking smile. "Humanity." The word hit her deeper than she expected. Daniel continued, voice trembling but determined. "When you handed me food, you didn't just fill my stomach. You reminded me that I still existed, that I wasn't invisible, that I wasn't just what the war turned me into." His daughter reached out, touching his arm. He covered her hand with his own, grounding himself. "Every day," Daniel said, "I walked to your stall trying to convince myself I wasn't worth the kindness. And every day you proved me wrong." He paused, emotion cracking through his composure. "You gave me the strength to call my daughter. That phone call, it saved my life." Maya felt a tear slip down her cheek. She brushed it away quickly, almost embarrassed. The officer beside them cleared his throat. His expression softened with respect. "Ma'am," he said, "you may not fully understand what you did, but you helped bring a soldier back home. Most people don't realize how many veterans are out there struggling with trauma, isolation, and silence. You broke through his silence." Daniel took a deep breath. "And now? Now I'm ready to live again." He looked around the street, at the people, the buildings, the familiar corners that had been his refuge and his prison. "But I couldn't leave without telling you what you meant to me," he said, turning back to Maya. "You restored something inside me that I thought was lost forever." Maya's voice shook as she replied, "Daniel, you don't owe me anything. You fought for your country. You deserve a life with your family." He nodded slowly. "I do now. Because of you." His daughter stepped toward Maya and hugged her. Maya stiffened from surprise before gently hugging her back. "Thank you," Daniel's daughter whispered, "for giving me my father back." In that moment, Maya felt it. The transformation wasn't just his. It was hers too. She had always believed she was ordinary, but today Daniel had shown her something she had never dared to see. She had made an extraordinary difference. The reunion could have ended there. Daniel found, his family restored, the officials ready to escort him home. But fate wasn't finished with Maya. Her kindness had done more than bring a veteran back to his family. It had started a ripple that was now returning to her in ways she never imagined. One of the officers stepped forward again, this time holding a small black case with the emblem of the armed forces etched into the lid. Maya blinked, confused. "Ma'am," he began respectfully, "Mr. Harris has informed us of your daily support. In recognition of your extraordinary compassion toward a missing service member, we have been authorized to present you with this." Maya shook her head quickly and backed up a step. "Oh no, please. I didn't do anything special." Daniel looked at her with a gentle firmness. "Yes, you did." The officer opened the case. Inside lay a medal, glimmering under the morning sun, the kind she'd only seen on television during national ceremonies. A civilian Medal of Honor for humanitarian service. The crowd gasped softly. Maya's eyes widened, her hands trembling as she instinctively clasped them to her chest. I don't deserve this," she whispered. Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady. "You deserve far more. When the world walked past me, you saw me. When I pushed everyone away, you reached out. You brought me back to life." He paused and then added with a small, emotional smile, "And now it's our turn to do something for you." Before Maya could ask what he meant, another SUV door opened. A man in a tailored suit emerged, tall, polished, carrying a briefcase. He approached with the confident stride of someone accustomed to big announcements. "Ms. Maya," he said warmly, "my name is Richard Hale. I'm with the Veterans Outreach Foundation." Maya glanced at Daniel, confused. Daniel nodded reassuringly. Hale continued, "We were informed of your support for Mr. Harris. After Reviewing the details, our board has unanimously approved a grant to expand your food business. Maya felt her breath catch. A grant? She asked. For me? Hale smiled. For you. For your compassion. For being the kind of citizen who reminds us that humanity is still alive. We want to build you a fully equipped roadside kitchen, bigger, safer, and capable of feeding many more people, including veterans who need support. Maya's knees nearly gave out. She clutched the counter to steady herself. Daniel spoke softly. You fed me when I had nothing. Let us help you build something beautiful. The crowd around them clapped, soft at first, then louder, rising like a wave of gratitude. People who had barely noticed her stall suddenly looked at her with pride, respect, admiration. Maya wiped tears from her cheeks, overwhelmed. I never did this for a reward, she whispered. I know, Daniel replied. That's why you deserve one. Hale extended the official documents toward her, and the officer gently placed the medal in her hands. Maya looked at Daniel, at his daughter, at the people gathered, and finally whispered a trembling truth. I just wanted to make sure no one felt invisible. Daniel smiled through his tears. And because of that, I was found. The morning that began like any other had unfolded into something Maya could never have dreamt for herself. The medal, the grant, the crowd's applause. It all felt surreal, like she was standing inside someone else's story. But the weight of the moment, the truth of it, settled deep in her heart. Daniel stepped closer, now flanked by his daughter and the officers who had helped bring him home. He looked stronger than he had in months, still fragile in places, still healing, but no longer the ghost of a man who once approached her stall with hesitation in every step. I'll come visit, he said softly. Not because I need food, but because I owe you my friendship. Maya let out a shaky laugh. You don't owe me anything. Then I'll visit because I want to, he corrected gently, and she smiled. His daughter hugged Maya once more, tightly this time, as if trying to imprint gratitude into her bones. You didn't just feed him, she whispered. You brought him back to us. Maya swallowed the lump rising in her throat. She had never thought of herself as a hero, just a woman trying to be kind in a world that often forgot to be. She watched as Daniel and his family walked toward the SUVs. The officers saluted him, guiding him into the vehicle like the soldier he still was, dignity restored. The engine started, humming powerfully as the convoy prepared to leave. Daniel rolled down the window and gave Maya one last sincere nod. Thank you, he mouthed. And then they were gone. The street slowly returned to life. The mechanic resumed his work, the schoolchildren continued down the sidewalk, and locals approached. Maya with smiles, hugs, and congratulations. Yet even in the noise, Maya felt a profound stillness settle within her. She looked at her small food stall, the chipped paint, the crooked sign, the worn-out counter. This place had been her struggle for years, her survival, and yet today it had become the stage for something extraordinary. Not because she sought recognition, not because she did anything grand or dramatic, but because she chose kindness when no one was watching. Hours later, when the crowd had dispersed and the street had grown quiet again, Maya sat on her little stool, medal in hand. She traced her fingers over the engraved emblem, feeling the cool metal against her skin. A simple thought washed over her. Kindness matters. Not because it fixes everything, not because it brings rewards, but because sometimes one small act can reach deeper than we ever imagine. It can become the thread that reconnects a broken life, the spark that rekindles hope, the reminder that no one is truly invisible. Maya looked toward the empty corner where Daniel used to stand each morning. She smiled softly. Tomorrow she would open her stall again. She would cook the same meals, greet the same people, and continue offering the same quiet compassion she always had. But she would do it knowing something she hadn't known before. Even the smallest kindness can change someone's world, and sometimes it can bring a hero home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video. It helps more people hear messages of hope and kindness. And if you want more inspiring real-life stories just like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep sharing the moments that remind the world what humanity truly looks like.